He wasn't the loudest guy in the Fast and Furious universe. No catchphrases about family. No over-the-top stunts. Just Brian O'Connor, the calm driver with a grin, a Supra, and a heart bigger than any engine. But when Paul Walker died in 2013, something changed. Not just in the films, not just for fans. For Vin Diesel, it was personal. And in the quietest corner of Vin's private garage, far from the red carpets and cameras, sits a piece of their friendship that most fans never knew existed. A space where memory isn't polished for show, but preserved for love. And what Vin Diesel keeps next to Paul Walker's Supra? It will absolutely break your heart. If you love powerful stories about friendship, legacy, and what really happens beyond the Hollywood spotlight, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you never miss a story like this. Now, let's go under the hood of one of the most moving tributes in film history, the Bond behind the wheel. Before Fast and Furious became a global juggernaut, before billion-dollar box office numbers and spin-offs, Paul Walker and Vin Diesel were just two guys meeting on set in 2001. Paul was laid back, a California kid who loved surfing, his daughter Meadow, and speed, and in that order. Vin was more intense, thoughtful, the kind of guy who'd read philosophy between takes. On paper, they were opposites, but something clicked. The chemistry between Dom Toretto and Brian O'Connor wasn't just acting. Off-screen, the bond was real. They balanced each other perfectly. Vin once said in an interview, "Paul was the better man, always." Their friendship deepened fast. Vacations together, family barbecues, late-night talks about life, not just cars. And when Vin's daughter was born after Paul's passing, he named her Pauline without hesitation. That's the kind of brotherhood they shared. Not Hollywood friends, real family. The Supra that started it all. In the Fast and Furious universe, no car is more iconic than the bright orange 1995 Toyota Supra, and no one drove it like Paul Walker. But here's what most fans don't know. Paul wasn't just playing a car guy, he was a car guy. He personally pushed for Japanese tuner cars in the films, especially the Supra. He knew its potential. The legendary 2JZ engine, the tunability, the street cred. And that orange Supra? Bomex body kit, giant wing, that unmistakable roar. It wasn't just a prop, it was Paul's style. After Paul's tragic death, many of the Supras used on-screen were sold or stored. But one, the hero car used for close-ups, ended up in the last place fans would expect. Vin Diesel's private collection. And here's where the story turns. Because unlike his other cars, which Vin sometimes shows at premieres, this Supra never moves. It sits untouched in a climate-controlled room. No photo shoots, no promo tours. Vin once said, "Some things aren't for the world. Some things are sacred. And this Supra, it's sacred, not because of horsepower, not because of fame, because of what and who it represents." What's next to the Supra will break your heart. Now, here's what will truly move you. Next to that Supra, behind a velvet rope, under soft lighting, is a collection that almost no one has seen. Not a museum display, not a press event. It's a personal tribute, a shrine, a space for Paul. Inside this space, a framed photo of Paul and Vin on set, arms around each other, signed by Paul. The message? Ride or die, always. A glass case holding Paul's racing gloves, worn and creased from filming Fast 5. A pair of scuffed sneakers, Paul's personal shoes from the set, not movie wardrobe. And most haunting, a folded note, lined paper, Paul's handwriting, given to Vin during Furious 7 filming. It reads, "Thanks for always having my back, brother." And finally, a simple metal shop stool. On it, a single wrench. To any gearhead, that's a message. A wrench left behind says, someone was here, someone mattered. And every November 30th, Vin is said to stand beside that chair, alone. No cameras, no press, just silence. That's how deep this bond runs. The goodbye that wasn't acting. When Furious 7 finally released, fans were floored by the ending. Dom and Brian pulling up side by side, exchanging that look, then taking separate roads. But here's what most people don't know. That wasn't acting. Vin Diesel wasn't delivering a performance. He was grieving. The tears? Real. The pause before driving away? Unscripted. Vin later said, "That film almost broke me. Every scene without Paul hurt, and it's why Furious 7 felt more like a eulogy than a finale." It wasn't just for Brian O'Connor, it was for Paul. After Paul's passing, another chapter began, through his daughter Meta Walker. At just 15, she was thrust into the public eye. But instead of chasing fame, she chose purpose. Through the PaulWalker Foundation, Meadow champions causes her father loved: ocean conservation, wildlife rescue, disaster relief. And Vin, he stood by her like an uncle. When Meadow got married in 2021, it was Vin Diesel, not a distant relative, who walked her down the aisle. Behind the scenes, Meadow and Vin have quietly collaborated on how Paul's legacy is honored in the films. And Vin often says that when he talks to Meadow, he hears Paul and her laughter. It's a living legacy, not trapped in the past. One that grows with every new Fast film, every Foundation project, every fan tribute. So why does the shrine still exist? Some fans ask, why hasn't Vin moved on? Simple. Loyalty. Vin has said, "I don't just feel Paul on set, I hear him. I ask myself, what would Paul think?" Before every major decision. That's why Brian O'Connor was never killed off. That's why every toast to family in the film still carries extra weight, and that's why the shrine remains untouched. The Supra, the gloves, the stool with the wrench, the note. It's not for tourists, not for content, it's for Paul, and for the friendship that shaped Vin's life. What's beautiful is, it's not just Vin keeping Paul alive. Fans around the world do it every day. From Tokyo to Brazil to LA, fans host PaulWalker tribute car meets every year. On social media, # for Paul and # ride or die trend every November 30th. And at every Fast premiere, fans honor Paul in ways big and small. Burnouts, murals, even tattoos. Vin has publicly said, "You guys keep Paul alive. It's not just me. It's a global family, bound not by fame, but by heart." Now, let's go back to that Supra. It wasn't just a car in the first film. It symbolized Brian's transformation, from cop to family. In real life, Paul loved Supras. He helped pick them for the film, insisting they stay true to tuner culture. And that hero car, the one now in Vin's garage, it doesn't move. It's not polished for show. Next to it, Paul's old sunglasses, his script binder with handwritten notes, the original NOS bottle prop. Vin never shows this publicly, because that Supra, it's a monument, a silent, turbocharged tribute. But why does it still matter? Fast and Furious faced a crossroads after Paul's death. Do they continue or stop? Vin wasn't sure, but in the end, they chose to honor, not replace, Brian O'Connor. Every scene with Mia, every toast to family, every quiet mention of Brian staying at home with the kids, it's all for Paul. And for Vin, it's daily. Every drive, every garage visit, every letter left unread. It's not grief, it's loyalty. Because Paul wasn't just a co-star, he was the anchor of the franchise, and Vin refuses to untie that rope. So now, when you hear about that Supra in Vin Diesel's garage, and what sits next to it, the gloves, the note, the wrench, you'll know it's not about the car. It's about a friendship that never ended. Because some bonds, they don't break, they shift into another gear. If this story moved you, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell. And tell us in the comments, what's your favorite PaulWalker moment, on or off screen? We'd love to hear it. Until next time, drive safe, hold your loved ones close, and remember, legacy doesn't die, it drives.